Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Sorry, I brainlessly started watching the next episode
Holy Land
before I finished. Go watch the Why Didn't France Get Divided After the Napoleonic Wars episode. A forgotten U.S. invasion of Russia. Man, YouTube is really
1984. The Cold War.
Really good on the recommendations. Okay. Hi, my name's Connor. I just did a video. You know the deal. I like to learn. Original link to the video top of the description. Right below that, link to the Discord. History Matters. Awesome channel. Love for you to join the Discord. Just makes it easier for me to interact with you. You don't have to if you don't want to. Still awesome. Just a thought. Did Ethiopians or Nubians? Who are Nubians again? Nubians. Reminds me of like Egypt. Nubians. Okay, so Sudan, Ethiopia, Somali, Egypt, Libya area. Where was I? Okay, let's go.
When we think of the Crusades, we think of kings, knights and peasants from places like France, England and the Holy Roman Empire marching to the Holy Land to retake important Christian cities. But during the time of the Crusades, to the south of the Ayyubid Sultanates sat the Nubian Christian kingdoms of Dotawo and Arua. And to their south was Ethiopia. It won't surprise you to know that these kingdoms also didn't get along with their Islamic neighbours, which raises an obvious question. When the Crusades kicked off, did they get involved?
Isn't that a big part of why Sudan and South Sudan split recently? Because they just had a giant war, like civil war or tension between the either Christian and Muslim population or Christian slash native African religion versus Muslim, and they just couldn't get along.
Islamic neighbours, which raises an obvious question. When the Crusades kicked off, did they get involved? Did these African kingdoms take part in the Crusades? So when the First Crusade was called, the Christians of Europe knew very little about those in Africa. Christians from Nubia, Ethiopia and Arabia had travelled to the Holy Land on pilgrimages. However, these were just seen as individual Christians, not as representatives of potential allies. In fact, the Crusaders just saw Africans as subjects of the Ayyubids, and even after the First Crusade had conquered Jerusalem...
I was just about to say, I'm like, well, that would require this already disorganized attempt, or maybe I'm just thinking of one of the Crusades, but that would require you to send messengers down there, all the way down there to tell them, and maybe that just wasn't worth it.
Contact between the two groups was rare.
Yeah.
It was during the Third Crusade that the relationship between Europeans and Nubians began to flourish, and the Crusaders started to realise that unlike their fellow Coptics in Egypt, these Christians were free of Muslim oversight, and thus were a potential ally, and the Ayyubids desperately tried to stop this relationship from blossoming. This was mostly because its leaders were worried about the two uniting and attacking from both sides, which was fairly logical because as the Third Crusade was ongoing, this is exactly what happened. Whilst Richard the Lionheart was doing his thing, King Moses, who had briefly united Dotawo and Arua, invaded Egypt. Saladin retaliated but wasn't able to strike a killing blow because every time he invaded, the Crusaders in the north would attack. This wasn't coordinated or anything, it's just that whenever troops had to move away to deal with the
Operation, we're geniuses.
The other north would attack. This wasn't coordinated or anything, it's just that whenever troops had to move away to deal with the other threat, it presented an opportunity to invade. Beyond this though, there isn't any evidence.
That's like Justinian and the Byzantines going for Italy, and then the Persians, and then the West, then, you know, Italy, West Roman Empire, Persians.
To suggest that African Christians were fighting in the Crusades proper in any great numbers. Just that the two groups were growing ever more aware of each other via contact in Jerusalem. It was the Fifth Crusade which saw the height of European hopes with respect to African Christians. When the Crusaders landed in Egypt, there was a hope that a major Nubian army would march north. They'd then conquer Egypt together before turning their collective attention to the Holy Land. Slight hiccup with this plan though, the Nubians weren't aware of any of this and so obviously couldn't act on it. The help didn't come, the Crusaders were defeated, and contact between the two groups and so obviously couldn't act on it. The help didn't...
Guys, we never got a letter. Guys, Nobody told us, man.
Didn't come, the Crusaders were defeated, and contact between the two groups came to a near halt when Jerusalem fell again in 1244. And after this, the Ayyubids soon turned their full attention to Dotawo, which fractured and converted several decades later. Urua fell the next century to an invasion from Arabia, and also converted soon afterwards. Some fled from these kingdoms and then...
Before I forget, one is I am never not amazed by how funny this guy can be and how much he can convey just by slow moving towards another figure, the shape of the eyes and the eyelids, and it just, that's all, and he can do. I love it. And second, oh my god, oh yeah. So back then there were Christians south of the Muslim northern modern day Egypt area, the Nubians and Ethiopians, Christians there, and this is well before the age of exploration. And so how did the missionaries, like, when were the first missionaries, like the first Christian missionaries? Because I find it interesting, out of like the three major Western Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, Judaism is the only one out of the two that like doesn't seek to convert. Christianity and Islam are like convert or die now, and Judaism is just like, we don't want you over here. But yeah, so for the Judaism is older than Christianity, but they wouldn't have had preachers going around to convert, missionaries. And so I wonder when the first Christian missionaries to travel across strange places just to convert people, when that was.
Ended up in Cyprus, which left only Ethiopia. Again, Christians had little idea of where it actually was, or even if it existed at all, which meant that said relationship went nowhere. Little idea.
Is it called Axum? What is in Africa? Prester John? Why don't flowers stop the plague? Is it
even of where it actually was, or even if it existed at all, which meant that said relationship went nowhere, at least until Europeans returned to the continent in the 19th century, with one notable exception. In the mid-15th century, there was an attempt to reunite the Western and Eastern churches. During these discussions, the Pope invited Christians from all over the world to Florence to attend the meeting.
Okay, so these purple areas right here, and here are still sort of like remnants of the Byzantine Empire. And this stuff is all Ottoman controlled now. Papal States, Holy Roman Empire. The Franks, I'm gonna guess, or maybe it's called France at the time. What is this color?
And the idea of both attacking the Ottomans at the same time was put forward. The plan was to retake the Holy Land and restore the Byzantines, but the Pope invited Christians from all over the world to Florence to attend the meeting. And the idea of both attacking the Ottomans at the same time was put forward. The plan was to retake the Holy Land and restore the Byzantines, but this obviously didn't happen, mostly because the Ethiopian kingdom at this time was much smaller than the Christians thought it was. And with this being a no-go, it marked an end to the Crusades and any potential African involvement with them. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It marked an end to the Crusades and any potential African involvement with them. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and a special thanks to...
Thank you for watching. Thank you for making. Cool video again. Interesting. Something I never thought of, and it got me really thinking about the missionary thing. And I really want to know, how were there Christians that were not really known about much by the Christians around the Mediterranean? So far down south of Africa. Well, not obviously, it's still very northeast Africa, but they must have been converted somehow, and I'm wondering why. Cool video. Hope you're all doing well. If not, chin up. You'll be good soon, friend. Don't worry. Emotions are fickle. Love y'all. See you next time. Bye.